Talking to some of the best names in contemporary Christian music. This is the Hope FM Artist Interview.
Hey, Jimmy, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Gordon, I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm quite hot. It's August here, August 2022 in the UK. It's been the hottest, driest on record for the UK. So we're here to find out a little bit more about you and hear some of your great music. So could you tell us a little bit about Jimmy, life story in a nutshell? How did God and music all come together? What's his master plan for you?
Yeah, you bet. Well, I was raised not in a Christian home or context. Really, we were sort of like nominally religious, but weren't immersed. I encountered Jesus when I got to about high school, so 15 years old, somewhere around there. I was struggling with all sorts of things at the time, and thought I was the only one struggling with it. Confessed some of my issues and sins and all of that to a buddy of mine. I didn't know how he was going to react. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I was just met on the other side of that confession with an immense amount of grace, patience, love, and a story about a man named Jesus who was much more than a man. And he came to earth to deal with and pay for the very things that I was so brokenhearted about. And from that day, about 15 years old forward, my life's been different. I've started walking with Jesus and getting to know him, and my whole life is starting to bend around him. And I got into music right around the same time, started playing guitar not too long before that, and I've always been singing. And so when I started writing songs, people used to ask me a lot in interviews, when did you start writing Christian music? And it's like, well, I don't think about it like that. I didn't wake up one day and say, I want to write songs that talk about Jesus. I write songs about the most important things in the world to me. And it just so happens that the most important things in the world to me fall in that category. And so when I got to college, I had enough songs to make an album. And my father, for a birthday gift one day, he saw one of my coffee shop shows and said, he works in the oil industry. He's just a good old boy from Texas who's not a singer, not a creative, and he could have reacted very differently, but he was so supportive and encouraging. And he said, if you're interested, I'd love to fund an album for you. You have the songs. I'll put up the money for you to record these songs, and let's just see what happens. So that was
Can
huge.
I ask you that? So
Yeah.
and that is absolutely immense. But you see, but you're a Christian singing about Jesus and God.
Yeah.
What did your dad make of all of the songs then that you were singing at that point?
Yeah. So it wasn't that my parents were hostile to the gospel or to Christianity. It was just that their involvement in the Christian life was just very nominal. So they had a stomach for it. It's just they weren't in a church at the time, those sorts of things. In fact, what's happened on the other side of that is my family has come to Christ since then. They are attending church. Those types of things are happening. So it's actually been beautiful. But I made this album, and that was 2005, which makes me sound like I'm 70, but I'm not. I'm 65.
So how yeah. Well, wow, which moisturizer do you use?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's pretty good.
So how old were you when you made that album?
Yeah, so let's see. I was around 19. Just newly into college, 18, 19 years old. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I was in school to be a history teacher. I studied history and philosophy. So I thought maybe I'll just do that. I love that stuff. And I made this album. And then one day, pretty out of the blue.
Can I pause you? I'm so bad at interrupting. I do apologize,
no,
Jimmy.
You're great.
But I'm intrigued. So your dad, who's an oil man, not a record man, says,
Yes.
I'll pay the money to make an album. And you go, that's lovely, because man, that is lovely of him. What a kind birthday present.
Yeah.
How on earth does that process work then at that moment? And is it just you just hire a recording studio, or tell me what happened? What actually happened to make that album happen?
Yeah. I had the worship pastor at the church I was at he said, "Hey, I have a friend in town who makes albums.
Oh,
Why don't I put you in contact with him? Show him some of the songs that you've written, and if he thinks you're not terrible, he'll record something with you." And so I sent him some songs. In fact, I just found that email from like 2004, like last week, and read it
wow.
again. And he was like, "Come on in, let's record this stuff." So I got connected with this guy down in Texas, and we went into the studio and paid track by track to record the stuff. And I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I had this album that back when you could actually hold it in your hand, and we put it online. We put it on some of the listeners will remember this this website. So MySpace, we put it up on
Ooh.
MySpace. Yeah, which was kind of like Facebook before Facebook and all that. And what happened was I got a phone call one day, kind of out of the blue, from the president of Impop Records, a record label in Nashville, Tennessee. That label at the time had bands and artists like the Newsboys, Shane and Shane, Super Chick, Matt Carney, those guys. It was my favorite record label at the time.
Wow.
And I got a call from him saying, "Hey, someone down in Texas tipped us off that to check out your MySpace page." And we went on your MySpace page and heard some songs, and we love it, and we want to come down to Texas to talk about signing
Whoa.
you. Which kind of a big deal, for a guy
Yeah.
who's studying to be a history teacher. So I did. So we met and signed a contract, and I got married right around that same time while in college still. So I was in university. I was 2 weeks away from starting my senior year. I got married. We were on our honeymoon, and on our honeymoon, my first album, Speak, came out on Impop Records, and I was off hiking on a mountain. But my whole rest of college and all that, from about 20 years old on, was just this wild life of, I stayed in school to finish out class and get my degree. So we'd go to class Monday through Thursday. I'd hop on a plane Friday. We'd fly across the country, sometimes around the world, play some shows, fly back, and I was in class Monday night. So it was a very weird life. And then
That is crazy, but probably wise, because if your voice had gone a bit squonky, you could go back to being a history teacher. So you thought
That's
you
right.
better get your degree. But
Yeah.
God obviously had other plans, so it
Yeah,
didn't
that's
didn't
right.
go wonky. So how old were you when you got married?
So 20. That all happened like right in
So
like that 19, 20-year-old space.
and how old was Kelly, your wife?
Kelly's also 20. She was a
Okay.
junior in university, but she uh is super smart. So she just finished in 3 years, and I took my good old time, and then we got out together and went on tour. So
Wow.
we graduated and went out with my first tour was with New Song back in the day. Then we went out with Natalie Grant. Then we went out with Barlow Girl. Then we went out with Super Chick. And then we went out on my own tours. And for basically all of my 20s, we just spent our life on the road in buses and planes and shows. And yeah, so
It sounds super cool. And I'm absolutely sure that there's got to be lots of super cool memories and moments in there.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
also, I imagine it can take a toll on you as well, I guess. Tell us about some of the highs and the lows.
Yeah. Well, I just think one of the highs that people take for granted is the ability. When I look back and I go, wow, I was able to provide for a family, um, buy a home, have a decent standard of living as a guy who sings songs. That to me is the older I get, especially in the rarer I know that lifestyle to be, the more I just feel grateful for it. I mean, it's just not it's not lost on me that um God didn't have to make this my path, and He did. And not everybody can do things for a living that they absolutely love and would do it even if they weren't paid. And I had the privilege for so long to do that, and so I feel really grateful. Um, on so many levels. And at the same time, it is, it is way less glamorous in many ways than most people want to frame it to be. I mean, there's nothing cool about being in like a coffin-sized tour bunk, for like, 12 hours at a time. And especially when you're just married and you and your wife are in separate bunks across the, hall.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not my favorite thing. So
No, I can see it has
yeah.
complications.
Yeah,
So,
no.
and you said Kelly came on tour with you. So is she musical?
Yeah, so we met because she was the violinist in my band. How's that? So
That's pretty
uh,
awesome.
yeah, and so one of the perks of marrying your band member is you don't have to pay them anymore. But you are paying for other things now. So, but she's great. She's brilliant. She did all of our road management. She was my merchandise girl. She did all the things, and she's crazy gifted in her own right. She's an author now with one book out with Nelson Books. She's writing her second one right now. She's a speaker. Yeah, God was too kind to me. I'm like, how am I look at her all the time. I'm like, I don't get how this worked out, but thank you, God. So,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
so really
nice. You're
grateful.
grateful. I think that I've heard someone say the best type of marriage is where both partners feel that they got the better deal.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, for sure. In this case, I actually did get the better deal, but yeah, that is that's true.
what, if you don't mind me asking, has been your biggest struggle being a musician?
Oh, I think it's probably I mean, I know what my answer is, and to set it up, I would just say my biggest struggle is probably what is the struggle for so many of us. It's just mine has worked out in on a more public platform, but it's that struggle of um, preferring myself in the spotlight over God. That's ultimately the struggle of humanity in a lot of ways. I think it's the core of what when we use words like sin, what we're talking about. We want to be the center of our own universes, and the temptation, especially in the context I have lived in for most of my adult life, of performances and creativity and platforms and uh, interviews and all the stuff, is it invites you to go, maybe I am that important, and maybe the focus does need to be on me. And man, if there is one bit of advice I got right early on in my career, I don't even know that I was signed at the time, but I had some pastors around me at the time who, one of them, I'll never forget what he said as I was just getting started. He said, "Hey, remember this, Jimmy, the most dangerous place for a human heart is on a stage." And I that has stuck with me for, how many, 15 years or so, 16 years. I just, I have found that so to be true, that the temptation to make the world about me and is so prevalent. In fact, when I kind of reflect on my career and even my songs, my songwriting, so much of it is me trying to process through, Lord, I don't want to live a life of self-promotion. I want to live a life of God promotion. And but I'm struggling and it's hard. And I know, because I've done enough shows and talked to enough people and all that I know this isn't just a stage problem. I mean, it's all of us in any one of our platforms. And now, gosh, how much more when you can have a platform as soon as you download Instagram or as soon as you click on Facebook. Platforms are aplenty these days. And so I think it's a good warning for all of us that the pull, especially in the modern Western world, is going to be for you to put yourself center stage instead of the Lord.
Yeah, and I think the track we played right at the start, "Vice and Virtue," actually talks a bit about how even in your good stuff, there's still also this vice stuff coming in that you need to actually just keep giving everything back to God.
That's exactly
Because it can get messy out there, I guess would be fair to
That's
say.
right.
So thank you so much, Jimmy, for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think it's a very common challenge to to I think it's a challenge to anyone as a platform. I think you're totally right.
Yeah.
But like you say, platforms these days they're all over the place. So
That's right.
what's been your tenderest moment with God ever?
Wow. Oh, so many things come to mind. Um, I, it's one of the things that comes to my mind is in the vein of things we were just talking about, actually. Um, I remember, I don't know if this is the top one. In fact, it may not be, but keeping on the theme, I would say, I remember, especially in kind of the front half of my career, one of I forget who said it. I think it was Teddy Roosevelt said that the comparison is the thief of joy. And we are always, I feel like, in our flesh comparing ourselves to one another, and certainly in the artist world and that sort of thing. I remember early in my career, uh, really wrestling with that. I had peers of mine who we were all doing the music thing together, and I'm watching sort of their career go up and my career sort of just stay kind of right here on this kind of plane. And they're on tour buses, and this tour I'm in a little van, and I'm feeling all the things. Their songs moving up the chart, and mine kind of plateaued at number whatever. And I was just kind of feeling miserable and sorry for myself in the back of the van one day on the way to a show, thinking about a particular fellow, and God brought to my mind John chapter 21. It's at the end of the book of John, where Jesus has resurrected, and he's now talking with his disciples on the beach, and he's talking with Peter around the fire. And he has such this interesting moment with Peter where he looks at him, and he says, "I tell you this, Peter, when you were young, you used to gird yourself, dress yourself, and go wherever you wished. But when you are old, someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not wish to go." And the next verse says, Jesus said this in order to indicate by what kind of death Peter would glorify God. And then it says, and Jesus said, "Follow me." And I felt so clearly like the Lord was saying, Jimmy, just what if it is the death of your career, the stagnation of your ministry, the plateauing of your chart that brought me the most glory? What if it brings me glory to raise person X all the way up to all the heights that everybody would want for an artist, and for you, I keep you right there, right on that kind of flatline level? If that brought glory to me, could you be happy with that? Or are you so obsessed with your own glory that it breaks your heart to walk in ways I would want you to walk? And I just felt so undone, Gordon, just at the end of that, thinking it was a renewal moment for me of just, am I going to live for my fame or his? And it was a beautiful moment. It changed my life.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely profound, and I'm sure many people can relate to it and think, gosh, I've been in this situation where I've wanted all these other things, but maybe in the middle of all those things, God is glorified by me being exactly where I am. So
that's right.
What a challenge for all of us. Thank you, Jimmy. Mm-hmm. That's a really amazing story, and I don't think anyone shared anything quite like that before. So appreciate it. So you've got your new podcast launching, and that's also going to take up. Is it going to be like a weekly thing or a monthly thing, or what's the plan?
Well, actually, we're on track to have 2 episodes a week. I know. I know.
That's
I don't know.
Quite a lot.
It's true. It's called batching, people. You do it all at once and then you split it up. But it'll go. This is our first season, and it'll probably go September through December, and then we'll start season 2 in January, February time, and about 24 episodes or so. So it's also on YouTube too. We're doing a video version of it as well, so they can subscribe there as well.
Yeah. Okay. But that to me sounds really. I'm definitely going to check it out. So and I imagine that this will air when there'll probably be a few episodes available already. So dear listener, go and check it out straight away before you forget. Okay, so that leaves the interesting question then about the music side of things, because you're obviously gifted musically. Are you going to be producing more music for release, or is God going to be using you within the church context, serving in the worship pastor role?
Well, I will say this. I'm coming really open-handed. I love music. I love writing. I love creating. I also know I'm limited in terms of my time, and so if anyone has ever made music or been around it, it takes time to get it from an idea to a song to a studio to to Spotify or whatever. And so my answer is I would love to. I even have some uh, things I'm working on now and ideas for. Especially years ago, I did like a hymns sessions album that I'm looking for ways to do music that also can immediately serve my local church as well, which taking hymns, which I think are just so theologically rich, and then finding ways to like make them feel contemporary and modern and fresh. I love doing that. And uh, so there's a very good chance that my next project is going to be exploring that as sort of like a volume 2 of like a hem sessions thing. I would love to do that. And it seems like the folks who have enjoyed my music over the years have enjoyed that from me. So I could see that being a next project. Oddly, one of the other things I'm getting into right now is this is so random. Children's books. I'm coming out with a children's book.
Oh, not reading them. You're actually writing them.
I'm right. Yeah, I do read them. And
what's your favorite children's book that you've read?
Oh gosh, the one that like set my kind of imagination ablaze when I was a little kid is a Sesame Street book, and it's called "There's a Monster at the End of This Book," and Grover, the monster, is narrating, and he's terrified because there's a monster at the end of the book, but he discovers, oh, it's just him. And he's the monster at the end of the book. And I just thought it was the funniest thing when I was 5. So I don't even know why I even remember that. Oh, because I read it to my kids now. I've got like 400 kids. So yeah.
You've got 400 kids?
Well, I've got 4 kids, and it feels like 400, and I have one on the way. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that will keep you busy, I think. 5 is quite a number. So, wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's amazing all the things that you are doing. So, okay. The book that you want to write, children's book, have you written it already?
I've written it. We're shopping it to publishers right now. Yeah. It's called, actually, this is the first time anybody knows the title, but it's called Real Bad Guys. Real Bad Guys.
Real Bad Guys. And who's it aimed at?
It's going to be in the like older side of kid world. So it's like that probably 7 to 12 range. And I'm just trying to explore that topic that actually a lot of my songs are about, which is bad guys, the way that we think about bad people. Bad guys are not the only bad guys. And that's kind of the nuanced topic that I'm trying to get at, to help people see that it's not just the folks that we sort of put in the category of criminals and all that need a savior. We all do. And so we're kind of looking at that in the book. It's fun.
Oh, yeah, it does sound interesting. If people want to connect with you and want to find out a bit more from you, so this program goes out worldwide. Let's say people wanted to actually have you, because you said you've been to places like Sweden and Finland and all sorts of places before. Are you traveling at all abroad these days if people want to book you, or are you only staying put?
Yeah, I'm definitely open to that. We take it on a show by show basis. So if anybody's ever interested, we just send them to jimmyneedham.com/booking, and they can submit a request, man, and we'll be there. Yeah. So.
jimmyneedham.com. Okay, that's easy to remember. And what about social media? Do you spend a long time doing social media, or do you avoid it like the plague?
Yeah, it depends on the week. But I'm on all the platforms, and especially with the podcast coming out, we've been engaging a little bit more, and Yeah, it's been fun. So just at Jimmy Needham for pretty much all of it. So
Okay,
yeah.
easy pie. That sounds good. Okay, there's part of me that's disappointed that you haven't gone. I've got loads of stuff coming out musically because I've really enjoyed it. In the preparation for this interview, I've really enjoyed listening to the tracks you've done. They are absolutely great. I feel they come from your heart, and they've been a blessing to me. At the same time, also well done for being really wise and thinking I can't do everything, and prioritizing the things that God says these are the things to go for first. Knowing all the stuff you've got on and 4 kids plus 1 on the way, what advice do you have for people at the moment who are struggling with all the things they're juggling? And in the UK at the moment, we're maybe heading into recession. Some people are taking on extra jobs and all the rest of it because we've got the highest inflation ever. It's interesting is not the right word, but maybe the kindest word I can use about the economic situation and perhaps the wider world situation. So for people who are struggling, what would you recommend?
Yeah, well, I empathize with a lot of that, and here in the States, we're experiencing our version of that as well, and it is a very interesting time to be alive, and interesting time even to be a Christian, and I'm so comforted by. I just preached on it recently, so it's fresh in my mind. Psalm 107 is such a great psalm. Especially for folks in seasons, and this might be you listening right now, who are struggling. It's economic struggles, it's just environmental struggles, it's spiritual struggles. That psalm is doing the work of reminding your heart and my heart that the just predisposition, the at the deepest part of God's heart, there's just an inclination to help anyone who would cry out to him. The psalm is remarkable because it gives 4 little stories of people who are in different various struggles, and then they cry out to the Lord, and he meets them in their struggle, and he rescues them from their affliction. But what's beautiful is their struggles are so diverse. It's folks who, through no fault of their own, they're on a boat at sea and the storm is going crazy. That's not their fault. They're crying out to the Lord. He helps them. And then there are folks who are total scoundrels, the worst, that people who got there because they made terrible decisions and sinned against God. And the same thing happens. They cry out to God, and God's tender heart toward them moves toward them, and he rescues them out of their affliction. So I would say, if you're struggling, you are one prayer away, one step away from having a God who is nothing if not an advocate for people who are desperate for him. So cry out to him. In Jesus Christ, the door of God's mercy is wide open, which means you can come in through Jesus and experience all of the help you need, no matter what the issue is. Your God is a God who loves to help needy people. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
You've been watching The Artist Interview. For the full podcast, click the links below or visit hopefm.com/The Artist Interview.